Picture this. It's 3 a.m. The power has been out for 6 hours. Your hands are trembling, not from the cold, from fear. Because somewhere in your kitchen, inside a small glass vial, is the only thing standing between your child and a medical emergency. And it needs to stay cold. Your generator coughed twice and died. Your backup batteries are flashing red. And in that moment, that single, stomach-dropping moment, you realize the terrifying truth. Everything they sold you was designed to fail. But what if I told you there are 3 technologies that were never supposed to reach you? Technologies so effective, so permanent, so untouchable, that the industries profiting from your dependence have spent decades keeping them buried? Not illegal, not secret, just hidden in plain sight. Today, we pull them out of the shadows. Let's talk about a lie. Not a small lie, a 100-year lie, wrapped in marketing language, sold to you in sporting goods stores, advertised by influencers with affiliate codes. The lie is this: modern batteries are the best batteries. They are not. Every battery you've been told to stockpile, lithium, lead acid, AGM, carries within it a biological clock, a countdown, and the industry knows exactly when that clock will strike zero. Lithium-ion cells sound impressive on paper. High energy density, fast charge, lightweight, but inside every single one of them, a slow war is being waged at the microscopic level. Each charge cycle, tiny metallic filaments called dendrites begin growing from one electrode toward the other. You can't see them, you can't feel them, but cycle after cycle, they creep closer, until one day, they make contact. Best case, your battery dies overnight. Worst case, you're watching a fire that water will only make worse. And even without a catastrophic failure, lithium betrays you quietly, just sitting on a shelf, untouched. The chemistry inside is already aging. 5 years of storage and you've lost up to 30% of your capacity. 10 years, you're holding a very expensive paperweight. Lead-acid batteries are no better. They've been around since the 1800s and they still carry the same fatal flaw. Every time you drain them, a crystalline substance begins forming on the internal plates, a buildup called sulfation. It never fully reverses. It accumulates, charge after charge, until your battery simply cannot hold power anymore. Add in the corrosive acid, the explosive hydrogen gas, the vulnerability to freezing, and what you have is not reliability. What you have is a maintenance nightmare with a guaranteed expiration date. So what is the answer? It was patented in 1901. Thomas Edison, the same man who lit up the world, developed a battery chemistry so fundamentally different that it doesn't just perform better. It operates on an entirely different logic, the nickel-iron cell. Here's what makes it almost incomprehensible by modern standards. The electrolyte inside this battery, potassium hydroxide, does not get consumed during operation. It doesn't degrade. It doesn't participate in the reaction the way sulfuric acid does in a lead-acid battery. It simply facilitates, like a referee that never gets tired. The actual electrochemical reaction happens between nickel hydroxide and iron. When you discharge, they transform. When you recharge, they return. Over and over. Thousands of times. The electrolyte just watches. This means you can overcharge it. It vents harmlessly and forgives you. You can fully drain it and leave it that way for months. Recharge it, and it comes back. You can freeze it solid, thaw it out, and it works. You can let it sit untouched for decades. Replace the electrolyte solution, and it returns to near full capacity. Edison's original production cells from over a century ago. Some are still being tested today, still cycling, still delivering power. This battery doesn't just outlast the competition, it outlasts generations. So why don't you own one? 2 reasons. One is honest, one is not. The honest reason: nickel-iron batteries are heavy. For the same stored energy, they weigh 2 to 3 times more than lithium. If you're building a portable system, something you carry on your back, that weight is a real limitation. But if you're building a homestead, a cabin, a stationary backup system attached to solar panels, weight is completely irrelevant. The dishonest reason is the one they'll never put in a press release. A battery that lasts a century is a commercial catastrophe. If you purchase a nickel-iron battery bank today, you will never purchase another one. Not in 10 years, not in 30, not in your lifetime. You are permanently off the market. Compare that to lithium, where the average system needs replacing every 5 years. Over 3 decades, that's potentially 6 complete replacements. Tens of thousands of dollars cycling back to the same manufacturers over and over. Your dependability is their revenue model. These batteries exist. You can order them right now. primarily from specialty manufacturers. They won't be on the shelf at your local hardware store. There are no Super Bowl commercials, no sponsored unboxings, but they're there. And if long-term resilience is the goal, they are the only logical choice. The outdoor gear industry has built an empire on a very simple deception. They told you that thickness equals warmth. They taught you to judge insulation by how puffy it looks, how much loft it has, how many layers you're wearing, and you believed them because you'd never been taught the actual physics. Here is the truth. Cold doesn't attack you. Heat abandons you. Your body is constantly generating thermal energy. The moment that energy begins transferring to the surrounding environment, through conduction, through convection, through radiation, you are losing warmth. The goal of all insulation is to slow that transfer. Traditional insulation does this by trapping air. Air is a poor conductor, but trapped air, in large enough pockets, can still circulate, and circulating air carries heat away. So insulation materials like down feathers and synthetic fibers create tiny air pockets, minimizing that movement. It works until it doesn't. Get the insulation wet and those air pockets fill with water. Water conducts heat dramatically better than air. Your insulation doesn't just fail, it actively works against you, pulling thermal energy from your body. In extreme environments, this is called hypothermia, and it kills quickly. The solution, according to the industry, more loft, more layers, more bulk, buy the bigger jacket. Replace it when the down starts clumping after a few seasons. But there is a material that solves this problem so completely that calling it insulation almost seems like an insult. It's called silica. Ergo, people who work with it sometimes call it frozen smoke, because it looks exactly like that. A blue-gray haze somehow locked into solid form. And what it is, structurally, is this. Imagine a gel, where every molecule of liquid has been replaced with gas. What remains is a three-dimensional lattice of silicon dioxide nanoscale particles, the same material as glass, but instead of being dense, it is 99.8% empty space. The pores inside Ergo are measured in nanometers, billionths of a meter, so small they are actually smaller than the wavelength of visible light. And this is where physics does something extraordinary. At that scale, air molecules can no longer behave like air. When the space they're moving through is comparable in size to the molecules themselves, they stop flowing, they stop convecting, they collide with walls more than with each other. Convection, one of the three primary mechanisms of heat loss, is essentially disabled. And because the solid structure of Ergo is so thin, so sparse, direct conduction to the material is nearly non-existent either. The result is a material with thermal performance that no conventional insulation can approach. A layer 3 millimeters thick performs as well as 3 centimeters of down. And unlike down, it doesn't compress and lose performance over time. It doesn't absorb water, it repels it. It doesn't degrade. It just works indefinitely. NASA has used this material on Mars rovers, where temperatures swing by 40 degrees between night and day. It's been inside deep-sea exploration vessels. It's been used in spacesuits. And you can't find it at a sporting goods store, because a jacket made with Ergo insulation, 3 millimeters thin, waterproof, performing at temperatures far below anything conventional gear can handle, would be the last jacket you ever buy. Imagine that for a moment. From the perspective of a company that needs quarterly growth, needs seasonal releases, needs you to come back every few years for an upgrade, a permanent solution isn't a product. It's a liability. The technology exists in niche apparel. The raw material can be purchased as flexible insulating panels. You can line a shelter with it, wrap critical equipment, insulate sleeping gear, but you have to go looking for it, because the mainstream will never send it to you. You think you've solved communications. You've got a handheld radio, maybe two. You've programmed in some frequencies. You feel prepared. You're not. Here is what that radio actually gives you. A direct line of sight transmission on a publicly audible frequency that broadcasts your location to anyone with basic triangulation equipment. Every time you transmit, you announce yourself, your position, your activity. In a scenario where situational awareness is the difference between safety and disaster, that radio isn't a tool. It's a liability with an antenna. And the range? Obstructed by hills, by buildings, by terrain. The moment there's something between you and your contact, the signal dies. Point-to-point radio requires a clear path, and clear paths are a luxury. The military solved this problem decades ago with encrypted digital mesh communications, but that technology was expensive, proprietary, and locked behind defense contracts. Until now, because a community of engineers, hobbyists, and open source developers quietly built the same thing from scratch and made it free. It's called Meshtastic. Meshtastic is not a radio in the traditional sense. It's a decentralized, encrypted, text-based communication network built on a protocol called LoRa, long range, a radio modulation technique that trades raw data speed for extraordinary transmission distance, and it operates on a principle that makes it unlike anything in the consumer communication space. Every single device on the network is simultaneously a receiver and a repeater. There is no central server, no hub, no tower. If one node goes down, the network reroutes around it automatically. The more devices exist in a region, the more resilient and redundant the web becomes. Here's what that means practically. You want to send a message to someone 15 miles away, on the other side of a ridgeline that blocks direct transmission. With a traditional radio, impossible. With Meshtastic, the message leaves your device, hops to the nearest node within range, maybe a mile away on a neighbor's rooftop. That node forwards it to another, further on, then another, until it reaches your contact. Each hop happens in milliseconds. The routing is automatic and intelligent. A typical LoRa device at low power can reach 5 to 10 miles across open terrain. Elevated positions can extend that significantly, and in environments where multiple nodes exist across a region, you have something the telecom industry cannot replicate and governments cannot easily shut down. A communication network owned by nobody and controlled by everyone. The encryption is real. AES 1 to 8 by default, with support for custom private channels with user-defined keys. Your messages are not readable to casual listeners. There is no central server storing your data, no company harvesting your metadata, no terms of service that can be revoked. The hardware is cheap, $30 to $70 for a LoRa-capable development board. Flash it with the open-source Meshtastic firmware. Pair it to a phone via Bluetooth, and you're on the network. No subscription, no monthly fee, no permission required. But here's the catch, and it's important. One device is just a radio calling into the void. Two devices is private encrypted communication, with range that beats most consumer handheld radios. 5 devices across a neighborhood is a mesh. 20 devices across a town is a resilient, self-healing communication web. 50 devices across a region is something that has no historical precedent in civilian communication. A distributed, encrypted, infrastructure-free network capable of coordinating, warning, and organizing at scale. The technology already exists. It's already working. Communities are already building it. The only reason you haven't heard about it from mainstream channels is the same reason you haven't heard about the Edison battery or Aragol insulation. A network that doesn't generate service fees, doesn't harvest data, and can't be switched off is worthless to every entity that profits from controlling your access to communication. Step back for a moment. 3 technologies, 3 completely different domains: energy storage, thermal insulation, communications, and every single one of them has been available for decades, proven by science, validated by the most demanding environments on Earth, and none of them are mainstream. That is not a coincidence. The modern economy is not structured around solving problems permanently. It is structured around managing them continuously. The ideal product is one that works just well enough to satisfy, and fails just reliably enough to require replacement. The Edison battery destroys that model. You buy it once. Aragol insulation destroys that model. You wear it for 20 years. Meshtastic destroys that model. You build a network no company can charge you for. Each of these, in isolation, is a threat to a specific industry. Together, they represent something much larger: the possibility of genuinely self-sufficient infrastructure that does not require ongoing participation in systems designed to extract value from your dependency. They're not suppressed through secrecy. They're suppressed through obscurity, buried beneath billions in advertising for inferior, profitable alternatives. Kept niche, kept technical, kept out of the aisles of the stores where most people shop. But physics doesn't care about market share. Chemistry doesn't respect quarterly reports. And the people who take the time to understand how things actually work, rather than how they're marketed, are the people who build genuine resilience. You can purchase all 3 of these technologies right now. Nickel-iron batteries from specialty international manufacturers, Aragol insulation panels from industrial suppliers, Meshtastic hardware for under $100, running on open source firmware. None of it is restricted. None of it is forbidden. It's just not in the commercial spotlight. Because the commercial spotlight follows profit, not performance. True preparedness was never about having more stuff. It was about having the right knowledge. It's about knowing why a material works. What makes a chemistry resilient? What makes a network unkillable? And then building accordingly. The system isn't hiding these things behind walls. It's hiding them behind silence. And now you know. Drop in the comments. What other technologies belong on this list? What have you discovered that works so well it almost seems suspicious it isn't everywhere? Stay sharp. Stay informed. Physics doesn't take bribes.